Welcome to the first ever tuned tuner car shootout. We decided that this year, rather than simply drive and show the cars, we'd put them head to head on a closed road and a racetrack. We brought 5 tuned cars between $30,000 and $300,000, and we're gonna duke it out to find which tuner did it best. I'll be testing how the cars drive on the street with a closed section of the stunning Highway 74 south of Palm Springs, while Rolex GT champion Lee Keen will push the cars to their limits at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway, a 2.7-mile, 17-turn road course. Lee and I will then rank the cars based on style, value, drivability on the road and at the limit, and most importantly, lap time. For all the categories but lap time, there can be no ties, meaning we rank the cars in each category and assign points according to rank. For this competition, there are only 2 rules. The car must be street legal, registered and insured for road use, and the car must run a DOT road legal set of tires. We start with our 5th place finisher by lap time, the 2014 Mustang GT modified by Maximum Motorsports of San Luis Obispo, California. This 2014 Mustang GT doesn't look like much at all. In fact, aside from the wheels, it looks completely stock. It has a completely stock engine, a completely stock interior, and completely stock bodywork. So what's the deal? Well, Maximum Motorsports of San Luis Obispo, California knows a thing or two about how to make a Mustang go around corners. In order to demonstrate the Mustang's road course potential, they've taken a stock Mustang GT, a solid axle one at that, and gone to town on the suspension. Aside from the shocks, they made nearly every single part on the car in-house. The grand total of all the modifications, including the roll bar, lightweight wheels, and even the tires, comes to just over $11,000 on top of the purchase price of the car. That makes Maximum's Mustang the cheapest car in our shootout by a margin of nearly $60,000.
When we decided to do a tuner challenge, we had to have a Mustang, and rather than bring out the brand new one, I thought it would be interesting to invite Maximum Motorsports to show me what they could do with the old Mustang. It has the 420 horsepower version of the Coyote engine, complete with stock gearbox, stock exhaust, and the standard track pack from Ford, which includes a 373 rear end and a Torsen differential. So why would I invite a company to bring a predominantly stock powertrain car to this challenge? 2 reasons. One is, I wanted to show you and I wanted to find out for myself what is possible with a stock powertrain car just by improving everything around it, the handling, the stopping, the grip. And what we find is the results are pretty spectacular. What Maximum has done is what they are good at, which is set up a chassis. This Mustang has pretty much everything Maximum would sell you if you had a Mustang and wanted to go do track days. It has their lower control arms, their 4-point roll bar, their end links, their bushings. The most exotic modification to this car is the JRi Shocks with iBox springs. Those shocks alone have been custom valved by Maximum Motorsport, and they're designed for this car. That shock and spring combo alone is about $5,000. The first thing I notice about this car is the ride quality. Although it has a track-focused suspension setup, it's not super stiff. Maybe not daily driver duty, but certainly enough for a fun road trip. You can also tell this thing is track ready by looking at the wheels and tires. These wheels and tires look a little small on a Mustang. They sell factory, 19s, and I think you can even get a 20 now. But the guys who go to the track know that the racers use 18s on all 4 corners. A lot of grip from these 888s, a lot of grip. It goes right where you put it. You can make mid-corner adjustments. It's really a beautiful driving car. The brakes on here are actually the stock Brembo track pack hardware, but upgraded with better pads, stainless steel lines, and high temp fluid. And what we find is, even on a very hot day, that hardware is very capable. It just suffers from the factory with a soft pad. So you can hear them squeak a little bit, but the pedal feel really, really good. Downsides. Well, the brake pads are noisy. That's how high performance brake pads work. They stop better at the excess of quiet refinement. But truth be told, the rest of the car is so quiet, I don't really mind a little squeaking. You know, not every car can be a $300,000 car. Not every person has that kind of money, and it's not realistic to only feature cars that are super expensive. This car has the value proposition on lockdown, and for $30,000, you've got a hell of a performer. I think when we get to the track, this car will impress us.
The modifications to this Mustang completely transform the car from cushy cruiser to handling all-star while sacrificing virtually nothing in exchange. The body doesn't move around independently from the suspension anymore. It rides well, the handling is neutral and predictable even over bumpy roads, and it seems to make the most out of the stock 420 horsepower engine. I awarded it 12 out of a possible 15 points for road manners, but only 1 out of 5 points for style because it's the plainest looking car of the group. I'm really interested to see what Lee can do with this thing on the track, so we went to Chuckwalla and tossed him the keys for a 10-lap test.
Nice slide in third gear, really predictable. The suspension really has a grasp on this chassis.
The Mustang, I think, was one of the biggest surprises.
The front is always there for me, but never too much. Balance is really good.
It kind of did everything I wanted it to. It had the front grip when I wanted it. Then I could lean on the rear. I could get a balance, get a slip angle with it, and you know, drive it how I wanted to, but also still do a quick lap time.
I'm not sure if they've changed the geometry, but I can't imagine the geometry is this good on a stock Mustang. As soon as you hit a bump, it comes right back to center, right where you want it to be, and the balance comes back to center. Not too much oversteer, not too much push. And it talks to you really well too.
If I was going to change anything, I think just more tire, wider, stickier, and more power. The suspension is there, and I think the brakes is there. It needs to have, like, you know, big nasty V8, 500 horsepower.
How'd it go?
It went good. I mean, this car, you know, the suspension is so impressive. It has good power because it's a V8 Mustang. And normally you would think the brakes would fade, but they didn't. They stayed with me. The shock control on the chassis and the way it gets itself sorted so quickly, has a nice balance. You'll hit a bump or a curb. It'll kind of throw it for a second, but the shocks bring it right back to where you want to go. It's fun to drive. You can slide it around, and it kind of does everything you want it to.
Well, I saw you getting some oversteer on corner entry as well, which you were able to maintain.
Yeah, I can manage the brake pressure and then manage the steering wheel input and get the exact rotation that I want. And for a driver, that's really what you ask for. If you got a car that's just going to push, you know, I mean, this thing could push and then basically go to oversteer. But it doesn't do that. It stays up underneath you, has a balance throughout the corner.
And you stayed out for a bunch of laps. So
yeah, it ran consistent the whole time.
Well, do you remember what your best lap was?
I think a 205.
Okay, 205. Well, we'll look at the data.
For that performance, for around 40 grand all in, I mean, that's impressive. It's a fun car to drive, and it will teach you how to drive. It's good enough where if you're not a very capable driver or you're learning, it's going to teach you, and it's going to, you know, help you become a better driver because it's doing the right things, and then you just have to drive it and it'll reward you.
We really need to praise the Mustang for its performance, balance, and unshakability. Maximum Motorsports has completely transformed this 2014 Mustang into an agile, forgiving track star without compromising its road manners and for a very reasonable amount of money. It was a favorite among the drivers, and we even used it for a camera chase car while filming other cars. So here's how it scored, and remember, there can be no ties in our scoring system except for lap time. The Mustang's best lap around Chuckwalla was a 2-minute 5.68 seconds. The fastest car in the shootout will earn 50 points. For every second slower, a car loses 2 points. At 12 seconds off the fastest car, the Mustang was the slowest, barely, so Maximum earns 26 points out of 50 for track performance. For drivability on the road, I gave the Mustang 12 points out of a possible 15, good enough for second place. Lee even gave it the full 15 out of 15 for track manners, the highest score possible, due to how easy and predictable it was to drive at the limit. It only gets a 1 out of 5 for style because it just looks like a Mustang with wheels on it, but it does get top marks of full 15 points for value, setting the benchmark for the category. So the total score for Maximum Motorsports 2014 Mustang GT is a 69 out of a possible 100 points. It may have come in last around the track, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will be last place in the competition, so stick around to see how the other entrants shake out.